I don't know if I want that on or not. Okay. Okay. I am just going to get started. Hopefully my mic is on. Um, so I am doing my hair. Um, I am putting many twists in my hair for the first time. So I just wanted to do a little story time while I am putting these mini twists in my hair. So I already started. I did these here, and I'm working on this row right here. So I'm gonna just get started. So I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a little while now. So currently, I am a mom of five. I have five children. I am currently married, but before I got married to my husband, I had two children, and I was a single mom. So I've been through a lot, a lot as a single mom. And I just wanted to talk about some things because as single moms, we go through a lot, and I don't think that people really understand. And sometimes when we go through things and certain things happen, society and everybody else, they kind of blame us for the situations that might arise in our children's lives, as if we had a different choice in the matter. Um, so yeah, I just want to talk about a few things that I've been through in my life, and hopefully it helps somebody. So, like I said, I'm not a single mom, but I was a single mom. I had two children, and I'm just gonna get my hair done as I am talking. Um, so let me start by saying that I don't think that. Hi, Albert, how are you? Hi, I don't know if I could say that word, but I'll say still. How you doing? Do you have $13 so I can get myself a Big Mac meal? I wish I did. I don't. I really don't. Hi, Patrick. How are you? Z- Zaza. Hi, King. How are you? Bazith. How are you? Onyx. How are you? Kevo. They say Brown don't let you down. Okay. But no, I am not single. Patrick, good. Okay. Albert, how are you doing today? I am good. I'm good. And as you're coming in, please like the live. So I'm just from India. Oh, how are you, Anisha? Hold it right there. Don't. What? Okay. All right. Anyway, let me get back to my topic at hand because I get distracted by the comments. Um, so yeah, let me say that I don't believe that in most situations, I don't believe that women set out to be single moms. So I first had my first son at 17. So I got pregnant at 16. Um, being out there, being a little fast little girl or whatever. I got pregnant when I was 16, had my son at 17. Um, when I got with my son's dad, people always say things like, well, you chose, that's who you chose. Sometimes the signs are not as obvious. I will say that being older now, I can pick up on things a lot better than what I picked up on in my past. But from from what I saw from my son's dad, I saw that he had a child already, and I saw that he took care of his child. I saw him with his child on several different occasions. I heard that he was giving the child's mother money. So in my eyes at that time, he looked as if he was a good dad. um, I didn't go into the relationship with him thinking, oh, we gonna have a baby. That wasn't that was the furthest thing from my mind, but at the same time, I was doing what I was doing. So yeah. Um, so when I got pregnant, I thought everything was gonna be all good. We was gonna live this fairy tale life. And yeah, he was gonna take me out of my mom's house, and I thought everything was gonna be just real great, real great. It didn't turn out that way. It didn't turn out that way for a lot of different reasons. So I'm gonna try to stay on topic and not go off topic or whatever, but it didn't turn out that way. Um, So my idea in my head when I had my son is that I knew that I had to be responsible for this baby. So I got a job. I did get a job. I when I turned 16, yeah, when I turned 15, I believe 15, I had my first job. I had my little first job or whatever. I worked at like a pizza place or whatever, answering the phones. Um, and from there, after I had my son, I had my first job. I was a cashier at a supermarket. So my idea, like the ideas I had in my head was great. But I was still young. So I was all over the place. So I focused on my son, but my focus was mainly on the money aspect of my son. I knew that I had a child, a baby now, and I needed to be financially responsible for this baby. And like I seen my mom work, so that was what I had in my head. Go to work, take care of my baby. um, I still had the idea in my head that me and his dad would be together forever. But like I said, things didn't work out that way. So although like things didn't go the way that I planned it to go, I always had in my head, and maybe I had in my head that um maybe I had this idea in my head because my mother actually said something to me, and now I'm thinking back about it. It's like we say things as parents, and words have a lot of meaning and words hold a lot of power. And one thing that she said to me when I was a teenager and going through my little smelling myself phase is that when you have children, you're going to get everything that you gave me back 10 times. So I already had it in my head, like when I have children or whatever, like it's going to be hard. And if I have a boy or whatever and everything, when things get hard, I'm just going to call his dad. And his dad going to come and get him. That was the idea I had in my head. So I never thought past anything. Growing up where I'm from in Baltimore, it is rough. It is very, very rough. And I'm not going to say it's rougher than any inner city or whatever, because I do believe that most of inner cities are just alike, honestly. But I do believe that Baltimore has a really bad reputation. So I knew that once my child got older, and these are the thoughts that I had when I was 16, 17, like these are the thoughts I had. So my idea was like if my son ever got out of hand, that I was gonna call his dad and his dad was gonna come and get him. And like the whole little boys in the hood scene, I had that played out in my head over and over and over again. So I never worried about my son being in the streets, my son getting into anything, bad or whatever, because that was the idea that I had in my head. That was the image I had in my head. and also some things that I thought then, like my thoughts have totally changed from when I was younger. But one of the things that I thought in my head was like, well, I'm not going to have problems with, this is what I thought. I'm not going to have problems with my son being in the streets because my son is not going to need to be in the streets because I'm going to go to work. I'm going to provide my son with everything that he needs, everything that he wants. He's never going to want anything from the streets. And my idea, I thought like, that boys fall to the wayside and go to the streets because they didn't have name brand clothes and name brand shoes and stuff. These were my ideas. These were my ideas, very very, but these were my ideas at 17, 18, 19, 20. So my idea was, well, I'm going to always make sure that my son stay in the up to date fashions, and I'm going to always make sure my son is geared out like whatever. Back then Sean John was the biggest thing. Sean John and some other little stuff or whatever. But I just, and Jordans, all that. Or I just, that's the idea I had in my head. Like I'm just going to make sure that my son don't want to go in the streets because I'm gonna always make sure that he's very fly and he'll never want to go out in the streets. Um, so those are the ideas that I had. So I had my first son when I was 17. And then I got pregnant when I was 18 and had my second son when I was 19. So the first son, his dad, that situation didn't work out. My second son, his dad, and like I'm going back to the theories that people say, know who you dealing with, and who you have a baby with. So my second son father, we actually went to high school or whatever. We went to high school together. He was my high school boyfriend. He was the a sweetheart. When we was in high school, he was the sweetest. He was so sweet to me. He 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 wasn't on the type of time the other little boys was on. So when I was in high school, I was very mm, what's the word I'm looking for? Um I had body yada 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 basically. So like yeah, the other little boys, they was trying to get in my face, trying to get in my pants and all that or whatever and everything. But he wasn't on that type of time. He was very nice to me. He wrote me nice letters. He made me mixtapes. He carried my books to and from class. Like he was just so nice to me. Um, so when I ran into him years later after high school, it was like, okay, well, he's the nice guy, he's a nice guy. So we started dating and everything. And far as me knowing what type of dad he would be, he didn't have any children. He didn't have any children. And looking at his mannerisms and how he carried himself, he was a good guy. He was a good guy. I mean, he had some problems in his family, but he was a really good guy. So like nothing nothing jumped out and said to me that I would be he would lead me to be a single mom. Nothing. It's nothing in his, like nothing at all. So when I got pregnant with my son, we was already broken up, and that was a big thing or whatever. So basically, I had my second son, and I was a single mom for the second time again. So during my children younger years, I'm not going to say it was pretty easy because it wasn't easy at all. It was very hard. Um, I never was fortunate enough to get any type of government programs, far as like Section 8. Um, I always kept a job, so far as like food stamps and all that government assistance stuff or whatever, that kind of went out the window because even now, even well back then or whatever, like if you made a certain amount of money, you couldn't get food stamps and you couldn't get financial help. And so like I never was fortunate enough to have Section 8 or public housing, so I had to pay for rent by myself. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I went through a lot. Now I did get government help far as daycare for my children. I did do that or whatever. And even with the government help, it was really, really hard. Um, it was hard for me to make ends meet. Like I was really, really struggling really bad. But my children had everything that they needed. And because it was so hard for me, I worked more. I worked more. Was that a good idea for me to work more? Probably not, but I did. I worked more to try to make sure everything was straight. To make sure everything was straight, make sure everything was good. So fast forward into, let's say, my oldest son was probably about 9, I want to say, probably like not, yeah, maybe like 10, 9 to 10, 10. He's about 10. And my son under him, he was about 8 because they are 2 years apart. So I was struggling so bad trying to pay daycare and everything. And somehow I ran into some information that said basically like you could let your child stay home at, I think it was like at that time it was like 7 or 8, 8 or 9, somewhere around that age or whatever. So once I ran into that, it was like, okay, my oldest son, he was 9, and the one the no, he was 10, I'm sorry, he was 10. He was about 10, and then my 8-year old. So but they said that the oldest child could not watch the a 10-year the child, in order for a child to watch another child, they had to be like 12 or 13 or something. So how I summed that up was, okay, my oldest son, you gonna watch yourself, and my youngest son, my 8-year old, you gonna watch yourself. You guys are watching each other because these daycare payments are killing me, absolutely killing me. You guys are gonna stay in the house, don't answer the door, the whole rundown. And I went to work. Um, so my children was supposed to be in the house. My oldest son was supposed to be in the house. And this is where things started happening probably. So my oldest son wasn't in the house. My oldest son was outside. He was very much outside, very much. Um, so from him being outside, and we live in Baltimore. We live in Baltimore. Um, he got to see a lot of different activity, but at that time, everything was still kind of okay. Back it up a little bit. My oldest son father, when my oldest son was about 9, his father died. I'm not going to go into details about that, but his father died when he was 9. So the idea that I had in my head, like, okay, if my son get out of hand, I'm going to send him to live with his dad. That idea went out the window because his father was now dead. Um, so at this time, at around 9, 10, everything is, it's okay. It's okay. By the time my oldest son turned 13, I noticed a lot of different changes in my son. I noticed a lot of different changes. And from from his father dying at 9, I knew that he was going to go through a lot. He was going to be going through a lot. So by the time he turned 13, I noticed little things in him, and it started off really, really small. It started off small, like he didn't come home from school right away. If he got out of school around 3, he wouldn't be home until about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So like when I noticed that stuff starting to happen, I started getting on him. Um, and also at that time, also, and I can look back at it now and realize where I went wrong at. Um, After my oldest son father died, I felt like that my kids needed a stepdad. I felt like they needed a stepdad. I felt like I wanted them to have a male presence in the house. I felt like I didn't want them just to see um, mommy going to work all the time. I wanted them to see a man figure. I wanted them to see what a man is supposed to do. So around this time, I started opening myself up to relationships. The Where I messed up when I started opening myself up to relationships is that I did not look at the quality of the man that I was getting into a relationship with. I I didn't look at the quality. I looked at the fact that a lot of men did not want to be in relationships with me. Um, and a lot of men didn't want that. So the man that came around that wanted a relationship, I jumped on it. I jumped on it because I felt like my children needed a father figure in their life. And that is one of the mistakes that I feel like I messed up at. I feel like I messed up there because thinking back at it now, like uh, I didn't need a man. I needed a quality man, but I couldn't tell myself that then. Then I just knew everything. I knew what I was doing, and so yeah. So needless to say, the man that I got with, he wasn't a father figure that my children could really look up to. And I've talked about this in a live before, but that man, I had a, I was in a domestic violence relationship with that man. So while I was trying to look for a father figure for my children, um, that's not what I found. So not only is my son going through something because he lost his dad, now he's thrown into this situation that with this domestic violence stuff. Okay. So that on top of that, and on top of the fact that I'm still working, I'm still working all the time because I'm still trying to provide. And it goes back to the quality of the man that I found. I didn't, the quality of the man I found was not equally yoked with me, basically. Because at that time, I was on a money chase. I was on a money chase. So, like, it was all about making money. The quality of man that I was with, he didn't have the same type of drive that I had. So therefore, I was I was the breadwinner. I was the breadwinner. I was the breadwinner in the household because we wasn't equally matched. Um so I'm still working, and my son is still, you know, in these streets or whatever. So I noticed like, okay, something, so I need to do something. I need to do something. I need some help. So I talked to some people, whatever, and everything. And around that time, now from what I knew, around that time, I knew friends that had problems with their children in the past too, and they had sent their children to, I think it was like a juvenile detention center or whatever. And from what I heard from my friends, like when their children went to this juvenile detention center or whatever and everything, and they came back home, like they was good to go. They was good to go. They did what they were supposed to do. But around the time when I started having problems with my son, they had closed down this facility or whatever because it was a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been going on there that was going on. Um, so I went down. I was talking to people, whatever, and everything. They was like, "Well, go down to juvenile services." So I went down there and I told them, like, I'm having problems with my son. He's skipping school, and what I'm saying, he's talking back to his teachers, and he's fighting, and I get phone calls every day. So they put him on some type of um behavioral program or whatever, whereas though like they had him take this like progress report to his teachers or whatever, and then I was supposed to report back to the social worker at the end of the week or whatever. So things wasn't getting better. Things wasn't getting better. So I called the social worker, like, okay, well, it's not getting better. He's still, doing these things or whatever and everything. His teachers, I'm getting phone calls every day. And the social worker basically told me, well, it's nothing that we could do. It's nothing we could do because he ain't commit no crime. And I'm looking at the phone like, it's nothing you can do because he ain't commit no crime. So he got to commit a crime so I can get some help. Like he got to commit a crime. So that's what I was told. So by this time, my son is 14, I believe. My son is 14. So I always had strict rules with my children. Um, because I know how the streets go, I have strict rules. Do not bring anything from outside into my house. I don't care what it is. Do not bring anything outside because I already know how that game go, and I know how the dope boys, get these little boys or whatever, and they give them stuff or whatever and everything, and hold this and here, take this, and next thing you know, they out on the corner. So I already know how that game go. So my rule was don't bring anything from out there into my house. So I noticed that my son had a cell phone. And I asked him where he got this cell phone from. He said it was his cell phone. So we had a conversation, and I told him, basically, I didn't want him having his cell phone. So he talked to my mother and my brother. My brother was also in his life as well. He talked to my mother and my brother, and he told my mother and my brother that he wanted this cell phone to listen to music on it. So they talked to me and they told me, well, basically, like I'm being too extreme. Like I'm being too extreme, and he a teenage boy, and he just want to listen to music on the phone. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So they talked me into letting him keep this phone. So all right, okay, all right. Couple days go by or whatever. I noticed that my son has another cell phone. So mind you, let me back up a little bit. Mind you, the school, I have a very good rapport with the school because I'm on the phone. They're calling me every single day because every single day he is doing something. Every single day, whether he is arguing with the teachers, he's fighting with the students, he done walked out of class.